Love it.
Man, I love that. A little dirty rock and roll.
I mean, you really can't go wrong with a little dirty rock and roll.
Yeah, some of my favorite rock and roll is dirty rock and roll. Go figure.
Right?
Welcome back, Geoholics. Thanks for listening. Episode 216.
216. Moving right along.
Moving right along. And since we last recorded in studio,
it's been a while.
We were in Orlando last week? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
For the Topo.users conference?
That's correct.
Amazing.
Great time. Awesome.
Those guys, I mean, Ted Knack and his team.
Ted does it.
It's never a letdown in any way. Everything is perfect. They
scheduled out. There's activities.
Yes.
He does great with the swag and stuff.
100%.
I mean the whole thing was really well put together.
Really well put together. I had a really good time. And we can't thank Ted enough. He's been, a supporter of the Geoholics essentially from day one.
Yes, has been.
He's, just great people. And when you're good people, good things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all coming to fruition for Ted.
Right?
Yep. Things are good.
What else is new?
Oh man. And you know what? You and I played golf last week.
We did.
And I think I may have impressed you a little bit.
I must say that you weren't as bad as I thought you were going to be.
I am going to take that as a compliment.
You should.
We had a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Other than that, the summer hasn't set in yet, in my opinion.
No, it has not.
Still pretty reasonable. Going to play golf on Saturday. Looking forward to that.
That's going to be your first 3-digit temperature golf?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Early next week. But you're going to be on vacation. You're going to be leaving on vacation that day.
Yeah, I go out of town a lot.
Yeah, lately anyways, right? It's good to be Sean.
It's what my wife says.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. And the cool thing is, I too am going to be in San Diego next week.
That's correct.
Later in the week, I have to be there for work on Thursday. And you're already going to be there.
I am.
And we are going to record somehow in some location, hopefully on or near the beach in San Diego on Thursday night.
We could probably even record from the beach.
Oh my God. If we can pull this off, it's going to be an all-time high.
I think
more ways than one.
Yeah. That is correct.
Oh man, we got a lot to get to, and producer Sean's under a bit of a time crunch this evening because he's got a highfalutin dinner to get.
Highfalutin dinner.
Yep. Again, good to be Sean. Right. Good to be Sean. This guy. Jeez. All right. Tell us about that opening number.
That was everyone knows the Black Keys song called "Your Touch." The Black Keys, an American rock band formed in Akron, Ohio in 2001. Band consists of two members, Dan Auerbach and Patrick Carney. They began as an independent act, releasing their debut album, The Big Come Up, in 2002. And known for their raw, blues-infused rock sound, they gained a cult following and critical acclaim with subsequent albums like Thick Freakness and Rubber Factory. Over the years, Black Keys have continued to evolve their sound, blending rock, blues, psychedelic elements, and solidifying their status as one of the leading rock acts of their generation.
And I got to be honest with you, there's not much I like about Ohio, but I do really like the Black Keys.
I mean, it's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you got to appreciate that.
I suppose. I've seen them 3 times.
Oh, okay.
I say every time there's a band, I'm always like, that's one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, so you have 40 in your top 5.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say this is a shameless plug. If you like the Black Keys, check out the Bluestones.
Yes, you told me about that, yes. and I did check them out.
A lot like the Black Keys.
Stuff.
Yep. So shameless.
Did you see them when they were here for the Final Four that day when they came?
I ended up not going. I was sick.
Oh yeah. That was a free show they did down there. It was awesome.
Once a year I get sick, and it happened to be that weekend, unfortunately. But so no, this is a short answer to that question. We are in the Altera Central studio this evening. A little bit about Altera Central. They are the authorized premier Trimble dealer for survey, mapping, GIS, forensics, and marine equipment in Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, and New Mexico. They have 8 offices and provide sales, rentals, repairs, and support for the full line of Trimble products: GPS, GNSS receivers, robotic total stations, scanners, Seiko accessories, mobile mapping systems, used equipment, and field supplies. Do you think that means used field supplies as well? I don't
maybe.
think so.
Tripods and stuff, maybe.
Maybe, including Juniper receivers and tablets, LaserTech True Pulse rangefinders, and micro drone UAVs. They also offer field supplies and can deliver them right to your job site.
They can.
I have actually experienced that before.
Mhm.
All backed by a service department with one of the fastest turnarounds in the nation. Find out more, go to allterracentral.com. I may have mentioned this in a previous episode, but I went to their open house here in Phoenix about 2 weeks ago, I guess, maybe. Great. They got a new facility here. Absolutely amazing. Like 3 times the size of what they had before. Those guys are doing a lot of really good things.
Yeah, and I called my friend Scott Spears over there. A guy always answers, always helps me.
He's the best.
Needed something, they had it.
He's the best.
Got it to me.
And just really good, kind of like Topodot, just really good people.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the kind of people you want to do business with.
Well, you don't even think about it for us. It's like, let's call Scott, call Altera.
We're spoiled.
Yep.
We got them right here in our backyard.
We really are.
Yep. What else? Time for the GeoMax weekly service pro tip. To find out more about GeoMax, another great supporter of the show, go to geomax-positioning.com.
Okay, here we go. It's through vulnerability that human beings create connections. The more vulnerable we can be with one another, the more that we'll trust one another, and the more we'll be able to collaborate effectively.
Huge believer in that saying.
I love that.
It is amazing.
That was Neil Blumenthal.
Yes, Mr. Blumenthal, I think you're onto something there. When you are vulnerable with your clients, it opens up all kinds of doors.
Oh, yes.
It allows them to be comfortable and feel vulnerable. And before you know it, you're having conversations that you never think you're going to have with a client.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's just like be a person.
Just be a good person.
Yeah.
Yep. Be humble, be vulnerable. Big fan of that quote. Thank you, Mr. Blumenthal, for that. All right. Next up, we have what is on the screen? What is going on here?
Don't worry about it.
Next up, we have the GeoSearch. We were renaming this segment of the show.
Oh, we are?
Producer Sean. Yeah. This is the GeoSearch Career Corner.
Oh, the Career Corner.
I love it. Don't you?
I do like that.
Okay. So we're tag teaming these now, right? Do you have your notes pulled up in front of you?
I do.
Okay. All right, here we go. Welcome to GeoSearch Career Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This week, we have some professional pointers for hiring managers to unveil the secrets to finding the perfect hire. Tip 1, dive deep. Ask about past projects and challenges. This will help you uncover candidates' problem-solving skills. That's a good one.
Tip number 2, culture fit matters. We talk about that a lot on the show. Inquire about their work style and values. This will help ensure a match for your team's vibe.
Love that one as well. Tip number 3, future focused. Question their career goals and aspirations. This will help find candidates aligned with your long-term vision.
I like that. And tip number 4, skills assessment. Use practical scenarios to gauge expertise. This will help ensure you hire talent that delivers results. Visit geosearch.com today. GeoSearch is your compass to building a winning team.
100%.
Yeah. And it's a good point. Sorry, number 2, like a lot of candidates these days ask to talk about the company culture. So if you're an interviewer like I am, be ready for that question and have a good answer.
Are you prepared?
Always.
Interesting.
We're a family here at Alta Southwest.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, my God. That's good, though. I like that. That's not bad. And like asking them about their career goals and aspirations. I think that's good.
Always.
It turns the table a little bit, right? You got to be prepared to answer the culture question, and they need to be prepared about
what they want to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you got to see if there's a match there, right?
Well, because that's what fosters a successful partnership. It's kind of what it is if your goals match their goals, then everybody wins.
Bingo. Bob's your uncle, as they say.
As they say.
But on that note,
you do have an Uncle Bob, though.
I do. He lives in Wisconsin. Doesn't everybody have an Uncle Bob?
I think so.
I think they probably do. I was going to ask you, this is a little bit off topic.
Okay.
But our good mutual friend, Tate Childers, has passed his FS exam. Found out today.
Yes. Congratulations to Tate.
Congratulations.
Hell of a guy.
Great dude. I'm I'm going to take at least half the credit.
No, I think you get about 30% of the credit,
No
and I'm going to take
way.
70.
No.
I steered him. He was going to be a civil engineer, and I steered him into the beautiful, wonderful world of land surveying.
You didn't even know what you were doing at that point in time. And thank God you steered him to me, somebody who could put him on the right path.
Yes.
You need to show some humility and vulnerability, Mr. Fair.
I don't think that this will be that time. I will show that vulnerability. I'm taking credit. Well, we'll just have to get Tate back on the show, co-host with us, and we can ask him.
We will have to do that for sure. But congrats, Tate.
He
love that guy.
I may sign his paycheck, so
well,
his answer may be somewhat biased.
I'm assuming he's getting a big raise as a result of this.
I would be lying if I said he wasn't.
There you go.
And like definitely will know, big is a relative term.
Yes. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder,
right?
All right, let's get our guest in
Let's
here.
do it.
All right, we've got Landon Jackson this evening. He has been on the show before.
What episode was that?
105.
105.
I think that was before your time.
I think it was. Yeah,
right. We're gonna have to go back and see what episode
that was before the awakening, as I call it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Again, humility, Sean.
The Geoholics Renaissance.
A little about Landon here. Born in Ottawa, Illinois, but grew up in Utica, Illinois, small town on the Illinois River next to Starved Rock State Park. Very familiar with that area. So my guy here, we have a couple parallels. He went to Morrison Institute of Technology in Morrison, Illinois. Mm-hmm. I thought about going there. He finished up.
Did you apply and they kindly told you not to come?
No comment. No comment. He finished up at my alma mater, Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. Go.
Salukis.
Yes.
Of course, yes. I know that.
Where he graduated with a BS in technical resource management, but he was really there for the land survey program by our good mutual friend, Mr. Roy Frank. Hobbies include, he says he's starting to do some fishing now.
That's
cool.
I
want to follow up on this because he's fishing in the Texas flats around Chocolate Bayou.
Okay.
And West Bay. Not sure what he's catching there, but we'll find out here in just a minute. He is currently a PM for offshore survey and position operations in Guyana. Guyana, there we go, with ocean engineering. And he is passionate about being a good leader in everything he does.
Great. Love that.
Landon, welcome back to the Geoholics. Thanks for rejoining us.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me. It's good to see you. Let's get after it.
Let's do it.
We have been trying to get this on the schedule for at least 2 months, maybe longer than that, though.
Yes.
I think we had it on there, and we had to reschedule it.
Ping pong this one around a couple times, so I'm glad we can finally do it.
Have indeed. Why do I have the wrong notes in front of me? This is a little alarming.
We're going to start with the Trimble Geospatial Icebreaker, right?
We are indeed. And to find out more about Trimble Geospatial, of course, go to geospatial.trimble.com.
Did you mention we're going to go to be at Trimble?
Trimble Dimensions
this year?
Just got the email this past week. We'll be at Dimensions again this year. Always a great show.
Yes.
And honored to be a part of it. Can't wait. So here we go, Landon. This one's for you. If you could instantly change one thing about the world, what would it be and why?
Oh man, you guys are always coming at me with good questions. That's a big question too, but I mean,
a big one.
First thing that comes to mind is probably the healthcare across the world. It seems like it's so varied depending on where it's at. I mean, maybe if you could level the playing field a little bit, I think that could open up some really great things, and who knows what it can unlock, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there trying to do that sort of thing, but if we could do that, it'd be a really interesting world, in my opinion.
It would indeed. You got anything, Sean, that comes to mind?
I thought of something similar, but I thought of
don't say mine.
Well, I just don't understand why people don't have food. So like if
world hunger.
Maybe it was just one of those things where everyone just decided that, or it never started that you paid for food. You just ate what you needed to survive, and then that was it. And everyone made that a collective deal that everyone ate.
I like that. That's good. Yeah. For me, homelessness. You got a soft spot there. Yeah. So all of us are kind of on the same page there. Basically, we're three really good human beings.
Clearly.
On the surface.
Don't dig any deeper, but on the surface.
It's so funny. All right, Landon. So you grew up in rural Illinois. Where do you live these days?
I'm in Missouri City, Texas, which is a suburb south of Houston.
Okay.
Wait, did you guys get some like really crappy weather lately?
Like tornadoes or something?
That it hit north of us, but yeah, it did a number, especially on a lot of the infrastructure and stuff too. And I think there was a couple fatalities on that storm, so it was pretty serious. Yeah, they're still working to get a couple things put back together from that. Yeah,
it's been a rough tornado season already. It's been bad.
And they're talking about the hurricane season too.
I just read that same thing. Yeah, it's just getting ready to start, right? And it's it forecasted to be pretty crazy.
Yeah. So give me one memory that stands out to you about your time at SIU. Anything in particular?
Man, I mean, just
did you do shrooms on Halloween or anything like that?
No, but I was just telling a story probably about a week or two ago, maybe, where I said I was really surprised to get out of there. I think with a 3.0 GPA, because it should have been more like 0.1 maybe, or a point. I mean, I think the culture down there was just, there was a lot of things to do, and I mean, everybody kind of knows that goes down there. It has that reputation as a party town. So I mean, with I know it's changed a lot since you and I have probably been there, but that's fine. But it's when we were there, I think it could probably be said for a lot of colleges, man. But man, one particular thing, I'd probably say the baseball games, the Hill.
Oh, it's great.
The group of friends that I had were
bring a keg out there. Yeah.
Couches and tailgate and everything, and being able to kind of heckle the opposing team, because the Hill is right there on the opposing bench, and man, that was so much fun, because you could really get into the heads of some of those players, and hopefully give our SIU boys a bit of an edge.
No, tons of fun at SIU.
Was the SIU baseball team successful?
Oh, we were always successful. It's kind of like going to Wrigley. You don't really care about the baseball game. You're just there to get fucked up.
There's a lot to be said about that, because you got a lot of Cubs fans and Sox fans hanging out there. Even Cardinals fans too.
True.
Right. And it was funny, because you get one team that would just hate everything that you're saying to them, and then you get other teams that would try to hang out with you later at the bars. And what we used to do is I used to get online and research the team on their school website to try to get more information and try to see what their major was, and really twist that knife a little bit. So that was fun.
It's like, that's why your dad left at 5.
Landon was a shit stir,
right?
I love it.
They'd be up the bat, and they'd be like, "How does this guy know this stuff?"
Homework.
That's
awesome.
Cool.
So I may have asked you this question last time we had you on, and if I did, I apologize. But growing up where you did, on the Illinois River, and I had some friends that did this. I've never done it, but I've watched people do it, because there's no way in how to do it. Did you ever do noodling with catfish?
So I never did personally, and where I grew up, people called it hogging, not noodling. Noodling wasn't a term I learned until a little bit later in life, but there's there's a couple.
We also use that term at SIU for a different reason, but
for different reasons. Yeah. But I think there's Big Vermilion and Little Vermilion river systems in the area I grew up in. I think some people around there would go hogging for catfish around that area.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too popular, but it was also a little bit different. I think the water wasn't as deep, but you had to get into the rocks and really pull them out. Yeah, and then sometimes a couple of guys were missing parts of their fingers because they caught a snapper instead of a catfish. But hey, that's part of the game,
Do you know what it is?
No.
You don't know what it is? You got to Google it sometime. It's these guys. They're freaking nuts. They'll go underwater.
Oh, you're talking about where you stick your arm in the yeah. I've seen it on the TikTokies.
And then they wrestle them out. It's nuts. Yeah, I would never do it, but I had some fraternity brothers that did it.
Why would you do it?
No freaking way would I do that. There's so much unknown.
What's unknown?
You might get a snapping turtle and come back with one less digit. I have no interest in that. No way in hell.
Fair enough.
No way in hell.
They grow up
no, they don't. But let's stay on the fishing topic, because I am curious about fishing on the Texas flats. What's that all about?
So the Texas coast doesn't have a hard defined coastline like you might think about, maybe like California, to where it's just almost a straight line. Texas has a lot of inlet, either waterways and bayous and bays that kind of come inland a little bit, and usually that water system is pretty shallow in most parts. I mean, you're talking anywhere from a couple inches to maybe 10 feet. There's channels and stuff that are deeper in there, but there's places, there's entire bay systems that are about a foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. You can walk across them, and you can wade fish. and you got to go in and dig for some of these fish and pull them out, because not a lot of boats can go in that type of water depth. So you have these shallow water boats that you go in and you got to go get the fish, and it's not a hospitable environment. You know, you got salt water and the heat and stuff like that. So yeah, man, it's a unique environment. I think Florida's got some similarities as well, right? But the Texas coast, if you go ahead and bring it up on a map and really look at it, there's a lot of inland, waterways, bayous, and bays that got a lot of fish in it, man. So it's a lot of fun.
Wait, you said dig the fish out?
Well, so when I say kind of dig it out, is because most boats that most people traditionally think about, they're not going in there. So when I say dig it out, you got to go in where it's maybe half a foot water depth, maybe even less, depending on which boat you got. And then you got to go, casting for those fish. Some guys will use fly rods, or, you got lures or bait, but you got to go find them. Right. And it's some work, man. It's a gnarly environment at times, when the heat's at
That's
you
cool.
and stuff like that. So it's a unique thing, a unique way of fishing for sure.
That's awesome. All right. You have a really cool job working for Oceaneering, which is a great name for a company, by the way, especially for a company that does what you guys do. And I love this catchphrase or this tag, "We solve the unsolvable."
Oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah.
That's really, really good. So talk about life at Oceaneering, maybe a little bit about the culture and how the company has evolved since you've been there.
Well, going back to the quote you guys said earlier, right? Being vulnerable and being able to trust each other and work together. Since I started there, I think that's been my experience in most cases, is where you reach out to different groups that have maybe different specialties, and everybody's willing to help and trying to understand what's going on with, your problem, some challenges that they have, and then find a solution for that. And it's funny because when I think you asked last time, like, solve the unsolvable, what does that mean? Well, sometimes it's the unexplainable. So it's not always easy to describe what we're doing, because of, some of the things that we get into are so kind of a deep dive into, one goal or one thing we're trying to accomplish. And again, I think I said it last time, it's pretty general when you bring it up that way, but with the groups and the level of technologies that we have, throughout the entire company, man, it's it's some interesting stuff that you run into on a daily basis, at least from where I sit.
Sure. How big is the company? How many folks work there?
Oh man, I'd have to Google it. I mean, they've yeah, I guess I think too much in my own silo. I can maybe give you a ballpark there, but I mean, I mean, there's a lot of collaboration, at least from my side, with groups in Brazil and India and the UK, and that's not, and I know Angola's got a lot of operations with what we do too. So I mean, it's global, man. Sorry, I don't have that number for you.
That's so awesome. So Todd, you mentioned your silo. Talk about your silo and what that means.
Right. So if you're gonna just do a quick Google search on Oceaneering, you're gonna see that it's real heavy in robotics, even some fabrication on let's say umbilicals, other things, and there's contracts, and they talk about aerospace, NASA, stuff like that. My particular group focuses on the survey related aspect or positioning of maritime assets, let's say, right? So surface vessels, rigs, stuff like that, and then the ROVs that we talked about in the last one, remotely operated vehicles. Are robots that do the work underwater, but they need to be instructed where to go, how to get there, right? And then measurements need to be taken, and that's where we come in. So there's a couple of different specialties within the survey group. My group, survey and positioning, kind of works with the subsea construction side. So when the wells are going in, or the subsea infrastructure to help get that well up and running and producing, that's kind of the people we're dealing with on a daily basis.
So you're looking at the locations of, you said structural elements, or what are some examples of what you're locating?
Right. So for example, let's say a client will get a location that they're interested in developing, or they want to drill into, right? They might get a rig on contract, come up on site, and then they'll say, how do we know where we're at? Well, then that's one aspect we could help them with, because you're talking thousands and thousands of feet of water depth, right? A lot of things can change over that type of distance. So we have a number of systems and technologies we can use to get them on point closer to that target to hit that reservoir. And then if that's successful, then there's a development or a number of mechanical components that go into that development that help produce that well to the best of its ability. So, and then so not only the well, but then all the structures associated with that development. There's a number of components that all play into that. They all need positioning, and they all need to be told where to go.
What are some of the challenges or the differences in working in sub water versus land?
And I touched on this on the last one, but I didn't want to say that land survey is easier, but things are still. They're holding still, right?
Yep.
They're more static, even though there's slight movements. They're a lot more static. Offshore, you're trying to position something on a vessel or a rig that's constantly dynamic. So you have to measure that and account for those movements to get more accurate positioning. So that's one of the reasons why I love talking to you guys and land surveyors, is because there's a lot of similarities, a lot of translation between the two industries, right? But it's a much different environment. And that's one of the things that drew me into the industry. Was when they first presented, I was like, how do you even do that? Right?
Yeah.
How do you even manage something like that? And that was a big draw for me, and I've been learning ever since.
How accurate can you get you said you're locating something that's moving.
Right.
Everything's moving.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but
in this case, yeah.
What's the difference in the accuracy you can expect because it's moving? Like what's your tolerance?
And how accurate does it need to be?
Yeah.
So again, depending on your sensors and the accuracy of those sensors coming together. So think of it this way: is like I think I brought it up last time, which was the rover that y'all use in land survey. It's pretty much the same one, but it's on the mast of a vessel. So you're getting that type of performance from that GPS sensor, but then you will have a heading sensor telling you the heading of the vessel, and then pitch and roll sensors that tell you how much the vessel's pitching and rolling and possibly heaving. So as that information comes into the nav system, it will calculate a better position or a less jumpy position, as for the lack of a better term, because that GPS, even though it's let's say moving constantly, we can try to limit that sub meter of a surface vessel, sub meter into that, to where when you're looking at the nav screen, that vessel in real life isn't going 3 meters this way and then 3 meters that way in an instant. So that nav system and all those aiding sensors give you a much more realistic representation of what that vessel's doing, and then you can work from that base to position things under the water, because we all know GPS doesn't work underwater. It'd be a lot cooler if it did, but it doesn't. So I mean, that's probably I think consistent with what probably most people would agree with, is to get meter, sub meter if possible, but in some cases it might be bigger depending on what system you're using.
And when you're out there doing this, your team's out there, what are they locating? Is it wells, or are you locating like where to dig for a foundation of some sort? I mean, what exactly? Talk about some projects you're working on.
Well, take your pick, just like anything else with land survey, right? But in most cases, let's call it the construction side. Usually a client will have some sort of need to position, whether it's a well or a structure that goes into a development. And when I say development, that's usually a well that'll hopefully produce product, and then you have to transfer that product to another unit that can then either transfer it to the top side or in a pipeline, right? So there's all these other components that play into that. So like I'm still working on the same project that I was, I think, the last time that we chatted, which was offshore Guyana, and it's just a development that just continues to grow, and it has a lot of similar components. But the challenge has been, since this project is so long, is to make sure that we're consistent with our positioning, make sure our performance is consistent. But you're talking, I could give you examples of subsea structures, like they call them manifolds, or some of the wells, or plets, plems, pipeline end terminations, pipeline end manifolds, stuff like that. It's pretty significant sized structures if you were standing next to them, but they need to be to handle those pressures and temperatures and that environment. And so without showing you, I'm trying to explain maybe just those size of structures, something about the size of a shed or a house, depending on what kind of project you're working on. But it could also be like, if they need to install riprap around a structure or some sort of protective structure. There's all sorts of projects you can get into, really.
How do you do checks? Because like when you're on land, you have permanent monuments that you can check into, right? That you have known values for. How does that work when you're out on the water?
So it's a preparation thing. So usually if a vessel comes into dock or quayside, right, we'll try to do checks quayside, because that's at least when it's static and we can shoot it in from a land monument if we have to, right? Or if we have the ability. And then once that vessel is what we call mobilized, because when we install all the equipment or measure the offsets, everything on that vessel, we'll try to tie it into the most static environment we can, right? And then once she goes offshore, there's a number of checks that we can check geodesy and projection and make sure that everything's in line with what we're doing. And if there is an existing structure, we try to position off of that if we have that information. So there's a lot of checks before, during, and after anytime we're positioning something to make sure that QC is done correctly.
What's the deepest structure, or how deep have you gone, and how far offshore have you gone?
Far, I don't know. Once you're on the boat, you kind of just waiting to get there, But I mean, hundreds of miles for sure, definitely.
Wow,
as far as
that's crazy.
The deepest I think development that I've worked on was probably around 9,000 feet, and I think that's I think Sigsbee's escarpment or Sigsbee's deep in the Gulf of Mexico max is like 12,000, but you're really pushing some of the limits on the equipment at that depth as well, right? So I've heard of some pretty deep projects, but at least in my personal experience, I want to say 9,000. I don't know if I ever got to 10,000, but yeah, 9,000 foot water depth for sure. Easy.
Wow.
Are there survey monuments on the seafloor?
You're asking the wrong person.
There is now. I can tell you, I've left a few. So
yeah, there you go.
What?
Why not?
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Well, so that's one of the things that there's when you go to an area like that, there's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to find ways, or there's been ways that have been developed over the years to where you can establish somewhat of a permanent benchmark or control system. And we usually do that with, we have heavy transponder frames that we can put in a control array around areas that we're developing to go in over the years and reuse those points, check in, and continue to position off of that initially established control network. So
bizarre.
Why are you shaking your head? What's so bizarre about that?
The whole thing is mind-boggling to me, to be honest with you.
It's 70% of the Earth. I mean, you gotta.
Well, I know, but there's so much unknown.
Sure,
it's like space.
Well, see, and that's the thing. I don't know if that has ever maybe crossed your mind, or even some of the people that work offshore may not think about it. But there's weird anomaly things that happen that you're at work, you're just like, what was that? I don't know, but that could have been something that nobody set eyes on for 300 years, or there's a feature down there that no one ever thought about, because why would we've never been there, right?
Exactly.
So there's these crazy let's call it attributes of planet Earth that in some cases it's a complete mystery when we stumble across it, right? And in one example was when the ROV was diving, you can kind of see the water passing by as it's going down the water column. All of a sudden it got blurry for some reason, and the winch operator was like, hey, something weird's happening. Well, there was these high density salinity pools that, for whatever reason, the salinity of the seawater was just super concentrated, and it completely changed the buoyancy of the ROV, and some of the sensors didn't work because the salinity was so high. But how would we ever know that unless we went there, right? So something to think about.
So you always have to be planning for the unknown.
Oh yeah,
that's so weird. Right? You're planning for the unknown.
Yeah,
weird. So bizarre. So I went to a presentation not that long ago about this offshore wind development off of the coast of California. And, they were talking about these leases that were in place and stuff like that. And I'm like, how are they staking out these leases? What do these legal descriptions look like?
Well, first off, they're not using the term staking.
Well, whatever they do. I mean,
or do you use the term staking?
Staking, marking, maybe might be a better term.
Or like demarking or demarcation is a term that is used a lot. But no, I mean that's common practice. They've been doing that in the Gulf for. I mean, I think they do it every year where they have a lease sale for the Gulf of Mexico where companies will bid on blocks if they think that there's potential for development there.
Yeah, so it's similar to mining, right? Where you're just kind of taking a shot and like I think something's over there, and then I'm gonna check it out and see if it works, and if it does, then make a bunch of money, that kind of thing.
Right. So a company will hire a seismic boat to go float an area, and they'll collect seismic data and come back, and the geophysicists will look at it and do what they do and tell a company, hey, we think there's potential here, potential there, and then that goes to the oil majors, and they sit there and try to size up how much money they should throw at that area and give it a shot,
So fucking bizarre. So who owns the ocean?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Well, we
should go stake our claim to a part of the ocean.
Well,
Again, you're not staking it.
I think
you're demarking it.
We're demarking our
business. But I think when a company has a certain amount of lease rights, it's usually for a term, and then they can operate out there without penalty of law. So.
But who are they leasing to?
So bizarre.
The United States government. And exactly what group? I don't know if I'd have to check. But yeah, it's the United States government controlling the leases, at least in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not sure about California though.
Oh, I'm sure it's whoever's got the best navy is who owns the ocean, right?
I'm just shaking my head. Like I cannot wrap my brain around this. It's the craziest thing. So, I mean, I guess since you've been doing this for as long as you have, like, good.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, so if you've been serving offshore for X amount of years, you kind of lose touch with how to survey on land, right? I mean, it seems like it's apples and oranges. It's not. I mean, it's the same, as far as positioning goes, but at the same time, it is so different.
It would be a little bit of a challenge for me to go set up a gun over a point, right? But I could probably get there eventually and then get back in that groove. But the mindset's the same, Kent.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
As far as you're looking at the data set that you have, you're looking at the sensors that are collecting that information, and then you're sitting there going, is this going to achieve what we need it to? Is it good enough? And is it going to help us establish a good enough answer for the use that is intended, right? So now if you told me to go do a land survey project, I might struggle these days for sure, but there's a lot of parallels and a lot of similarities still with that surveyor mindset, right? And attacking that problem.
I'm guessing the legal descriptions are a little easier.
Are they? I don't know.
But fundamentally, it's the same thing, though. You still want to be able to go back to the same spot that you plan to go back to with some level of accuracy.
Repeatability. Yeah,
just like the whole point is to be able to say that's a line or a spot, and then one day or a million days later, someone else can go back and get to that same exact spot.
Sure.
It's all fundamentally, it's the same.
It's all latitude and longitude.
Yeah. And the dimensions aren't changing. He doesn't have a different foot than you have, right?
He might. International foot, US foot, ocean foot. I don't know.
Interesting.
Nautical mile.
So talk about the changing gears a little bit, but talk about the industry in general. Like, is it easy to find oceaneering people? I mean, do you have to, like the land surveyors do, have to beg, borrow, and plead people to get into the industry and be successful?
I think it's probably, again, similar to land survey, to where you might run into a PE first, maybe, or because the land surveyors are out there doing all the work, right? So, but I think the survey aspect is probably, and I guess that's why I'm here, is to try to talk about that and get the word out that we are out there.
Yeah.
And I think there was more of a push years ago when the industry, I think, was in a little better shape. I think there was a lot more recruiting going on, a lot more, the word getting out. There was a downturn that really hit the industry in about 2014, 2015, depending on who you were. And that really that put the brakes on everything. And then right about the time that, companies were starting to come out of that and get back into doing the work around, 2018, 2019, everybody knows what happened in 2020, and that really kind of set everything back. And and it's been tough, especially on an international project when you got
Sure.
COVID doing what it was. It was just tough to kind of get people into it. So it's been struggling to find people, but we're trying to get the word out and find good surveyors.
Yeah. Well, the hazards have got to be a little bit different too, right? From a safety perspective. Talk about that just a little bit. I mean, what are some of the things that, a conventional land surveyor would never think about?
Well, our main tool or vehicle that we have to deal with has hundreds, if not thousands, of electrical connections, hydraulic connections, varying degrees of electricity, and it's usually sopping wet. So that's one aspect. And then on top of that, you're also in the maritime industry, right? So then there's a whole nother level of safety there. So safety is definitely something that has improved ever since I jumped into the industry. Companies take it serious, and they do a good job in my opinion as a whole. And even oceaneering does some new things that we didn't understand why we were doing it at first. There's a self-verification process that it's just a conversation at face value, but really what you're doing is you're checking with your coworkers, your employees, asking them questions about what would you do here and what would you do to see if they're safety minded. And that's been something that like I said, we didn't understand it at first, but as we've been doing it, it's definitely paid off, because then people have to think about it. They're not just checking a box. It's a conversation digging for it. So, but yeah, the maritime aspect to it, and then what we personally do and deal with, a lot of potential energy release or electricity and stuff like that. It's something that's a constant thing you have to stay on for sure. And then we do.
Yeah, a lot to think about there for sure.
How big is the company, Oceaneering?
We asked him that one.
Oh, how many people?
He wasn't in the position to answer that at the time.
Oh. I missed that one.
Gonna Google it though.
I am now.
Google it, right?
Yeah, the website's amazing. They do such cool shit. It's incredible.
12,000.
12,000 people? Oh my God, it's a big company. Holy crap. Yeah. And you're just like a small part of that. That's amazing. So you're working on projects like you said, all over the world, essentially. Talk about some of the challenges, the inherent challenges of trying to collaborate and coordinate with teams that are 4 time zones away or whatever.
Yeah, it's that's between the time zone difference and logistics. International logistics is something that's, man, it's crazy. But I mean, again, Oceaneering and all the team members that I've dealt with are excellent. They'll find a way to make it work, whether you got to go early, stay late, whatever you got to do to kind of get that line of communication going. And the international logistic aspect is, depending on which region you're working in, things can change. Geopolitical aspects, or I don't know if anybody's seen anything with what's been going on between Venezuela and Guyana and some other players there. You have to pay attention to those things, because they can affect how you get equipment in and out, how you get people there and back, and just how the countries what they're dealing with, and the relationship. So and the time zone difference thing is something you're constantly checking, and it's one of the first questions I ask if I talk to somebody new. Like, hey, how you doing? I'm Landon. What time zone you in? Right? Because that kind of dictates how your communication is gonna work with that person.
Yeah, for sure. So I got to ask you this one. In my thinking, it's like there's a lot that goes into what you're doing. In some ways, even a hell of a lot more than what goes into regular conventional land surveying. How's the pay? Is it pretty attractive?
I mean, now that with the industry kind of almost everybody coming out of COVID, and the industry kind of coming out of the downturn, and then kind of that double hit with COVID, I think it's a lot more attractive than it was. I mean, I think the heydays are all but gone. The oil and gas baron, everyone thinks they're just going to be, hit with money in the face. But but it's just like anything else. At least in my personal experience, you coming straight out of school, you'll go after anything. But you got your head on straight. You do the work. You put your time in. You do things for the right reasons. You can find a path that's pretty successful, I think, in my opinion. Or even if you want to stay offshore too. I mean, we got people that got a lot of years experience offshore, and it works for them, and it's paying well. I mean, I'm pretty sure that most offshore people are getting paid more than me, but that's the way it should be.
Sure.
Like, they're the ones that are gone. They're doing the work. They're out there, around that danger. And I think we got one of the greatest offshore survey groups in the world, in my opinion. So
yeah, that's so cool. What do you think,
just,
Sean? Would you want to do it? Would you want to be an offshore surveyor? Just for summer. Summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you do it?
Sure.
What about like getting seasick and stuff? I mean, I guess you get over that, or you don't, and it's not a good fit for you.
Yeah, but you get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually you hurl once, and then you're in the club after that, and then
you have one bad day, and then
oh my god,
do you get seasick?
No, but you know what? Honestly, I've never been on a boat where I can't see land.
Really?
Never. I have no interest in that. Zero.
Why? That is so interesting.
Well, grab your boots, Kent. We'll send you offshore and see how it goes.
Do you think that you're just never going to come
back?
It's
going to go right now. No, I mean, it's probably like a control thing or something like that. Like if I see land, I at least feel like
you feel like you can swim there.
If something happens, I can still make it.
Sure. That's wild. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I've never have. And I don't want to. Don't want to. No. I'll take a Viking cruise down a river, but I'm not going to take a cruise where I can't see land.
It's so weird.
Well, some of the boats are pretty comfy. You get on those drill ships, man, and you don't need to see land. You got plenty to do inside. You're fine.
Yeah. What about like the rigs where it's not even a boat? It's like a thing.
I no interest. There is no way in hell I would ever want to be on one of those things.
Well, and don't forget, that's if you pass the Boziet training, where they put you in a fuselage of a helicopter and then tip you upside down underwater and see if you pass that too. So
it's not for everyone. And,
you're one of those everyone.
I'm not in that category for sure. I respect what you do, Landon. There's no doubt about it. And I think it's cool that there's an aspect to surveying, like we're talking about here, that most people would never even think about, right? I mean, how do you even promote it and get the word out and that type of thing? Because it's so specialized. Like land surveying in general is specialized, but what you're doing is uber specialized.
Well, I mean, it starts with gentlemen like yourselves, trying to find that avenue. Like, hey, let's have that conversation, or hey, have you heard of this, or hey, this is what's going on, and you guys can go talk to other people and say, hey, have you heard of this? Have you seen this? Like, it's just kind of throwing yourself out there. And land surveyors, in my opinion, or even offshore surveyors or surveyors in general, are very good at what they do. They care about what they do. They're very detail oriented.
Super passionate. Yep.
But that leaves you that doesn't throw you out there very much, right? Because you're busy getting it done. You're busy doing what you need to do.
True.
And so a little bit of promotion as far as maybe something like this, or trying to get out to job fairs and stuff like that are pretty common. But I want to try to find, more ways to tell people, hey, like, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. This is what we can do. And, you want to go do that? Like, come on, let's see if you got it. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting because there's already, I mean, we talk about all the time, there's very few, maybe a dozen programs across the country that offer degrees in land surveying. I have to believe there's no degrees in ocean surveying. Is there any formal education that covers that aspect of mapping?
I think there's a couple of programs, and I hope they forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head, but I think there's a couple that have seen what a couple of their students have done in this industry and said, hey, yeah, that's definitely a viable option, or something that we want to expose more. But I think it's few and far between, and I think even the limited number of land survey programs that you might have, it's probably even lesser for maritime or let's say even hydrographic, the shallow water stuff. But when you think about the environment it's in, it's really hard to teach. It's hard to have those resources to do it as well, right? So, you can try to talk about it in the classroom and maybe go to a lake or some shallow water stuff, but it's not a training ground that's exactly like the environment, right? So it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Is like AI playing a role in what you're doing at this point? Is there any applications?
Not with operations yet. I think AI in my day-to-day is taking the same approach as everybody else, to where it's trying to automate some of maybe the more mundane, or some of the stuff that's more structured, whether it be data or information. it's getting looked at from a lot of different angles. I think it's one of those tools that we don't fully understand what we can all do with it yet, and we're gonna figure that out. It's just I don't think we've really dialed it in anywhere yet, because there's two parts to it. The best we can tell is that the data that you're feeding into it and the structure that it has needs to be pretty consistent. We need to get that down before we can really plug it into that AI monster and get something useful out of it, right? So, but as far as our day-to-day, not yet, no.
Well, especially with the and this is a unique industry because, like Landon said, there's a lot of this has not been touched or seen or explored yet, and AI is just taking all the information that is available and doing something with it.
Yep.
There's no information available here, so AI doesn't figure out new stuff.
AI doesn't even know about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
It's so funny.
It's a good question, because I mean, there's probably other groups within oceaneering that maybe that is what they're doing.
Oh, sure.
Especially in the robotic side, where you have autonomous items that know where they're at, and they have a structure that they work within. So so I don't want to say oceaneering is not. Oceaneering as a whole probably is, just my group not so much with what we do.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep. So at what point is it considered offshore? Like you mentioned the shallow stuff, hydrographic. At what point does it become offshore mapping?
Well, I think anytime that you're just going in the water, see, if you got to know a little bit of the history, is that when they were trying to find new wells to drill, they came to the coast and said, well, I think we're done. But then somebody was like, nuh-uh, I want to go a little bit farther. And that's where they were shooting land monuments to platforms, building in the shallow water. And then once you establish that platform, then you could go shoot another monument from that platform, and you just kept stretching it. Yep. Right. So in the Gulf of Mexico, for example, there's a land feature kind of called the shelf, which is somewhat considered shallow water. But in my experience, anything that was kind of like 1,000 or 1,500 feet or less, that was all kind of like just shallow that you didn't really deal with. And then 2,000 plus was what you dealt with. And then I forget what the exact cutoff is for ultra deep water, but I don't know if it's 5,000 or 7,000. But yeah, offshore, as long as you're getting on a boat, or I guess you can't walk through it, I guess. But
the fact that there's 9,000 feet deep places of the ocean is mind blowing to me.
Oh, and there's still equipment that works down there.
That's insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, there's a common thing that kindergarten classes, one of their parents I think was an ROV guy, and all the kids in the class would write their name on a styrofoam cup. They would put it in a laundry bag, and the laundry bag would fly on the chopper, go offshore. They'd strap it to the ROV, and then they would dive the ROV to depth and come back up. But when they would come back up, all of those cups had the exact writing or art on that cup, but it was thimble sized from the uniform pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then they would take it back to the kindergarten class and give it to the kids, and they'd be like, wow, it's exactly, whether it was their name or a picture, it was the exact same, image or whatever they wrote on that cup. It was just thimble sized instead of normal size when they had it.
Crazy.
Right. So,
that's so cool.
Oh my God. So what's next, man? What are you excited about?
I mean, our group and the developments that are going on. I mean, we're getting better at what we've been doing. We're tightening up our processes and procedures, and I think we got a pretty good track record in most cases with what we've been doing. So, with that being said, technology, as you can imagine, the new push for newer items is now starting to kind of come back, because we kind of had that double hit that I was talking about earlier. So I think there's a lot of offerings out there from a lot of different companies and people for photogrammetry, subsea photogrammetry. And
wow.
I think I think the industry's trying to figure out who's got the best solution, who can do it the best, the quickest, the safest, stuff like that. And it's good to see some newer technology finally, that effort, that push coming in. So that's something that's developing. I'm definitely keeping an eye on that. I know there's other companies that are doing some other stuff, whether it be with augmented reality or remote services and stuff. That's something we talked about previously. And it's trying to get back. into a healthy zone as far as our industry to start looking at some of that newer stuff and applying it. And for you guys or your listeners that may or may not do photogrammetry, it's if you're doing it from a plane, okay, you can fly somewhat lower altitude on a nice sunny day. You got your camera and you're taking your pictures and you're getting your information. Imagine doing it in almost 0-degree temps at night. And the pressures, the PSI is just unmanageable. So it's a much different. And then of course with the camera challenges that you have underwater versus in air, it's a whole nother thing, man. So it's come a long way, but I think we're finally getting in a healthy spot in the industry to really put some application to it and really test it. So
sure. So what about LiDAR working underwater?
There's some LiDAR companies and laser scanning companies out there as well. The thing that a lot of, whether it be photogrammetry or anything visual based, the biggest challenge that we probably run into is turbidity. Because like when that ROV or any structure, remember there's thrusters on that ROV that help it pilot around. Well, once that thruster wash hits that seabed and there's not much current or fast current, that it just gets foggy real fast. There's particulates in the water, and that can interfere with lasers and cameras and stuff like that. So there's been some successful applications with subsea laser as well, and even different levels and flavors of sonar, right? Sonar's improved and stuff, and there's even there's a technology out there that is pretty good at seeing through turbidity, but you don't have the resolution. So there's always a trade-off, right? So
there's always a trade-off, Sean.
Yeah.
There is.
No truer words have been spoken.
Sure.
No free lunch.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's never easy.
Oh my gosh. I know there's a couple things that you sent us that you wanted to make sure you got out there and we talked about. Is there anything else that maybe we haven't touched on yet that you want to get out there?
No, it's just letting people know that the industry's out there. There's whether they contact myself or even like a quick search on LinkedIn, if it's something you're interested in. I guess I was wanting to get the word out last time. Now I'm kind of throwing the challenge out. Like if anybody thinks that they can hack it, they can do what we do. They can deal with that environment and the challenges that we have. Like that's kind of the mindset you got to have to make it. So that's either of interest for you or it's not. So
I love it. I throw down the gauntlet.
I think what he's saying is, are you smart enough to do this? And if you think you are,
or are you well, I don't say man, that becomes sexist.
It is.
Are you tough enough to do this?
Sure.
Because there's a toughness factor.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Resilient.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, throwing that challenge out, I guess, too, because that's you can't half-ass it. Like you gotta go in, see if you can hack it, and then we'll see how long you can take it in the industry, and if not, then go back to land survey. That's fine. No hard feelings.
Go back and do your conventional.
Yeah, you tried. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, go back to the easy stuff where nothing moves.
Yeah.
Little jab there, gentlemen. Hopefully it
and everyone's already surveyed everything, so
yeah, right. Exactly.
It's all on Google.
Yeah,
right?
it's already good. It's all on Google.
Landon's like a pioneer.
He really
He's
is.
out
That's
there,
what I was thinking of. Like,
yes.
He's he's one of those guys that
So
likes to
cool.
see the stuff that no one else has seen before.
Well, hey, and there's been a lot of people who've come before me that were dealing with technology that wasn't as robust.
Yeah.
Conditions that weren't as good. So I mean, me coming into the industry, you're talking to a offshore oil and gas guy who had his 30-year chip. You better keep your mouth shut and your ears open during that conversation. So you gotta know where you're at.
That guy's like the captain of the boat in Jaws.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah, man,
nothing phases him.
Yeah.
Hey man, there's been some drilling engineers that have taught me a lot about not only drilling but just being out there and the things that you can see and the things you gotta look out for. So definitely.
Wow.
See, that's where I'm out. I'm stuff you can't see. I'm out. Done. I want no part of that.
Just not very adventurous, Mr. Grow.
Just not when it comes to that.
There's been a couple situations, Kent, that I would have loved to have you sit in the seat next to me, because like there was one time we were near the drill shack or something, and the whole rig just shook for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds, and we're kind of looking at each other like, well, that was weird, and then it was just quiet. It was at night. It was at night, right in the middle of nowhere. Just, okay, so we go back into the room, and we're just like, we just shook it off, like, okay, and come to find out there was a little bit of a rattle with the drill string. I think they called it slipstick, but okay, all right, I'm going back to work, like, figure it out.
No way.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think it's the unknowns and the
darkness
and the vastness. It's just so you live in a world where everything is a known dimension that is quantifiable
My
for you.
anxiety on land is barely manageable.
Barely manageable.
I can only imagine what it would get to if I was out there. Oh shit.
All right. Well, we asked this question to everybody, Landon, and you probably had it before, so we'll hear it again. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
So I'm trying to remember the last one.
No, don't try to remember it.
I'm making sure I don't repeat myself, but I kind of prepared for this one, and I wanted to go with this one. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'll say it too. It says, "Remember who you wanted to be," right? And you can see the guy drinking beer on the couch watching TV. Right. Is that who you wanted to be? No. So and the reason I bring that up is because you got to think back. Hey, where are you at? What are you doing? Are you on that path? And take self inventory, man, and really get your act together the best you can. Be the best version of yourself, because other people will, they're going to pay attention, and they're going to want to go with you. They're going to want to help you, and you're going to help them along the way too. So take that little question and ask yourself that every day. And you're not going to be perfect, and that's fine, but always drive towards going towards that direction and that person you want to be.
I really like that. Be the best version of yourself.
That's pretty darn good, right?
Yeah, like that.
All right. Anything else, Sean?
No. This I know really
we kind of ran through this pretty quick. You got a hot date tonight.
No, we good timing.
Good time. Good
timing. Yeah.
You're still good?
Yeah, good.
You're not going to be on the in the doghouse?
No, I'll be fine.
Oh, good. Well, Landon, hey, thanks.
The famous last words. Oh no.
I'm good. Yeah, she's probably watching right now, just shaking her head now.
Yeah, it's like, that's my husband.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thanks again, Landon. This has been great.
Yeah, appreciate it, Landon. Really cool stuff.
We'll see you in a couple of years. Get another update.
Yeah, man. I'll put something more technical together for you all, and maybe some examples that some people can look at. But yeah. Feel free to reach out anytime.
If anyone's interested, learning more. I mean,
how do they find you?
Throw me an email is probably the quickest way. I'm living in my inbox every day. So ljakse@oceaneering.com. I get a lot of emails every day, but I look at everyone. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Yeah, oceaneering.com's got a lot of cool stuff on what they're doing.
Probably some job openings too, I would imagine.
I may have searched.
Did you apply? No.
Not yet.
The career search site is pretty good. So I'd definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, there's Norway jobs up there.
Really?
Yeah.
On land or in the water?
Well, it's at Oceaneering, so
screw that.
Probably both.
All right, man. Thanks, Landon. Be safe out there, and until next time, go dogs.
Go dogs. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Adding value and remaking friends. Landon's been a friend forever, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics. Black Keys, your touch, available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, a few takeaways. Land or water, the mindset is the same.
Kent. It is.
There's no free lunch.
No.
Landon is a pioneer. Remember who you wanted to be. Take self-inventory. And most importantly, stay classy, Geoholics.
That's for next week.
Please rush. I need your touch.
Good stuff. Stop.